When he turned his back from shoulder to shoulder, it looked like as wide as the tailgate of a truck.
And just darkness, literal darkness, just came like all over, just all over me except where I was standing.
This thing let out the most blood-curdling, mind-blowing, spine-tingling scream that you've ever heard in your life, and it cut through me like a knife.
And I knew that they were going to take me. I just knew it. And then the next thing I can remember is being levitated.
Well, when I look in there, I see two big eyes staring back at me.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Bump Podcast, a place for the believers of the unexplained, monsters, and paranormal. Join us, and we'll go face to face with what goes bump in the night. Hey there, believers. I got an exciting episode for you today. It's exciting for me because it's about West Virginia paranormal stuff. And I always love talking about my home state, you know. But it's also going to be exciting for everybody, I feel, because I have two professional journalists coming onto the show today to talk about cases. They work for a local radio or news station. And these two ladies came up with a line they call Paranormal West Virginia. They cover stories, you know, from the Mountain State about, you know, things that have happened here. They get into the Flatwoods Monster, but they also, and, you know, some of the further, more well-known stories, you know, Mothman and whatnot. But they also cover some things that have happened more recently, like an encounter somebody had just a couple years ago with an Ogua. At least I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's a river creature. It's a giant snapping turtle, basically. We're talking 10 to 20 feet wide, long snapping turtle. There's an old legend about it, and that's what these guys say that they saw. So I'm really excited to hear, you know, from their perspective. They actually got to talk to the eyewitnesses. And they, I think they went to the location and all that too. So it'll be a lot of fun. We'll get to know them a little bit and let them share some of their own, you know, their own take on this stuff from a professional standpoint. So hang on tight and I'll get them right on the show here. While we wait for them to show up, I got just a couple minutes. You know, I do these early intros about 10 minutes before time to start. So I got a little bit of leeway with that. I'd like to just thank everybody for the support, for coming onto YouTube, for subscribing to that. There's been a lot of response. There's a lot of comments going on. There's a major growth to the Instagram channel or page I got. So there's, you know, this show's growing and growing quickly. Hopefully I don't lose anybody because it's not their cup of tea every week. But, you know, I try to mix it up a little bit this month. We're doing scary. So I don't know. It's just, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see what trends come through every time I turn around. You know, there's like a wave of Bigfoot and then a wave of ghosts, and then, you know, some demon stuff comes through, and then, you know, it's just it's a mixed bag. And that's what I love about this show. It's different every week. And, you know, I just want to thank you guys for sticking around through all of it and giving me feedback and for sending me more and more stories. You know, hopefully this show has a long road ahead of it. So thanks, guys. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So let's bring on Shay and Shyla.
My name is Shayla Klein, and I'm here with Shyla Parsons. and we work for WBOY. We decided to start this Paranormal West Virginia series for October. How we got started with it last year. It just seemed like a fun little series to do in October, and I don't know, it seemed to really take off. What do you want to say about it, Shyla? Anything?
I mean, yeah, we just kind of did it. It started as a fun thing to do, and I had just started my reporting training at the time, so it was just a fun series to get started. And then we got a lot of feedback from it last year, and then it was probably like January this year, people were still like seeing our stories, and it was getting a ton of views. And so we decided just to keep it going and make an annual October series for us.
Yeah, so we try to do it every Friday in October, is what we usually do. So last year we did the Flatwoods Monster. That was a huge one that still gets a lot of attention now. The Ghost of the Silver Run Tunnel. We did the Ogua Monster, and a couple stories centered around WVU. And we basically just approached this guy who is like a storyteller mostly for a lot of these stories. His name is Jason Burns. He's great. And he basically, he knows all these stories because he researches them, and he does perform professionally. And so, we kind of pick the stories out, and then we'll email him and be like, do you know about these stories? And then he'll be like, yes or no. And then suggest some stories too. And so that's how it always starts. And then, as it progresses, this year, it was great because, somebody saw our Ogua Monster story in the summertime, and went ahead and messaged us on LinkedIn and was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what I saw in the river until I saw your story, and now I know that I saw the Ogua Monster. And then me and Shyla were like, okay, we got to get this guy on camera. Can we interview you? And so that's how we got our first story of the month is out now, and that's what it's all about.
Awesome. Now, I was not familiar with this Ogua Monster until I read your all story. That's what got my attention. So would you guys care to, maybe talk about what this thing is, and, just give me a little, overview of it?
Yeah, sure. So basically the Ogua Monster is just a giant turtle. And, some people say that it has some alligator aspects to it. The guy that we interviewed, he described it as what he thought was a large rock and a snake behind it. But then he found out that the rock was the shell of this giant turtle that he saw. And a legend goes that the turtle is so massive that it can take down a whole deer and even some small children and eat them. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But they said that it didn't want to pay attention to them. I know that me and Shiloh were speculating that, it might be a real turtle that's just hundreds of years old, because they do get to be pretty old, so.
Yeah, and there's some deep holes of water. I know at all these rivers, and these rivers are ancient. Yeah, the new river is what, 1 billion years old or something like that. So any little tributary off of that is probably still a very old river, and who knows how long these turtles live. So it's like a giant, alligator snapping turtle? Is that what it? Is that what
yeah, I think they said that they estimated it to be at least 10 feet long.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I would believe it too, because I know that in the mountains, we have West Virginia is the only place where you can find a blue crawdad,
Right.
So why not?
Yep.
Maybe nobody's just seen it yet, maybe nobody's discovered it. Scientists haven't discovered it yet, so I believe it.
Yeah. Perfect place for a cryptid. And West Virginia is known for its cryptids, Mothman, if it falls into the paranormal or cryptid category, and Flatwoods Monster, and the white things or whatever else. So do people reach out to you now that this is picking up steam? Are they reaching out to you year round with stories? Are you starting to see some?
Not as many as we would like, I think. There was a couple people that messaged us after this last story, and one I thought was really interesting was somebody said that they thought that they saw something like an Ogua or something, but then it ended up being like 3 beavers in a row that were swimming past. Like it was like the mom and the babies. So you know, we get fun stories like that too. So
Cool. People out there giving it a little bit more time, right, to see what's out there and try to debunk it themselves before they can call on the news.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's not
but we're always interested in hearing people's stories, though. I think that it's fun. So if anyone wants to give us a holler with our emails, mine is sklein, KLEIN @WBOY.com. Shyla's is sparsons@WBOY.com, and you'll reach one of us, and you'll probably reach both of us by emailing us, because one of us will probably email it to the other.
Fantastic. So. You know, I know a couple of guys that have had Bigfoot sightings in Kanawha County. There's been some Bigfoot activity that I know of in Logan County. So,
wow.
You know, I don't know if you guys have tackled that story yet, anything about Bigfoot, but there's definitely a lot of talk going on right now.
Huh. That might be something that we look into for next year, huh, Shyla?
Yeah. Yeah, because we haven't really heard much about the Bigfoot stuff yet.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe because we're northern.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So what got you guys into this? What did you just go with paranormal because it's something, you know, something different, or have you guys always been into the paranormal yourselves, or?
I think it just started first because it was October and it was something to do in October, something spooky. But you know, I've always been interested in the paranormal myself. You know, I love horror movies. I've seen a ghost or two in my day. So yeah, always been interested in the paranormal and interested to see what's out there, and love West Virginia. Anything West Virginia lore is always fascinating to me as well. So I'm from Wheeling, so
Are you okay?
I'm from West Virginia. So
what about
you, Shyla? Yeah.
I would say probably not as much as Shayla is, but I'm more of like the logical history side of it. I love hearing all these paranormal stories and like looking into them, because they always have some type of history behind them, or they always relate to some type of history that's happened. And so I kind of got into it through that aspect once we started doing these stories and started like learning all the history, like the real history behind them, and that makes them more like realistic and more believable, I guess.
Yeah. So it's cool. You guys work as a team. It's like you got the skeptic and the believer. You know, that's kind of a good way to approach anything that's, you know, in this genre.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If you guys like historical and ghostly stuff, are you guys familiar with the legend of Mamie Thurman?
No, what's that?
Okay, it's about 100 years ago now. There's in Logan County, Mingo County area, there was a lady, Mamie Thurman, who was murdered, and there's a big true crime, awesome story around this woman, and she's said to haunt 22 Mon Road in Mingo County, where her body was discovered. It's been going on, you know, the folklore around her has been going on pretty much ever since the discovery of her body. But it is one of the most interesting stories. It's like a real whodunit kind of story, you know. There's small town politics, there's racism, there's betrayal, there's sex scandals. It's got everything in it.
Wow, that's neat.
Yeah, it's a good story you guys might like. I can send you a link. I had
Yeah.
there's a theatrical production down here at Chief Logan State Park, and there's a lady, a playwright, who dug through all the archives and old newspaper footage and talked to witnesses, you know, if there was any still left. And she gathered all the information she could to make it as historically accurate as possible. Her name is Joyce Robertson, and she did the film, or did the play down here in Logan County, and it won awards, you know, through, you know, West Virginia Arts and stuff. And she came on the show earlier in the year and retold the story for the, you know, for the podcast. So that's one of my favorite episodes. You know, not only is it West Virginia, but it's one of those true crime stories that people just can't get enough of right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll send you guys a link to that later on if you want.
Yeah.
So, Shayla, you said you've seen a ghost or two. Are you willing to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my earliest memory about ghosts is my house was a little haunted growing up. It was my grandfather built it. I never met my grandfather. He died before I was born. But there's like a room in the back of the house that me and my brother kind of switched between, you know, whenever we switched rooms once or twice. And like we didn't know this until we were older, but like, because we didn't talk about it, but we both had such vivid nightmares in that room of like an old man in a rocking chair. And it was just odd that it was the same thing. You know, we both thought, you know, there's nobody that died in this house because our grandfather built it. You know, that's what was going through our minds. But then we found out that my grandfather actually did die in the house.
Oh wow.
So might have been, you know, my granddad that I never met haunting us, which was kind of interesting. And then, you know, we lived somewhat near the penitentiary. We lived in Mozart. I don't know if anybody knows where that is, but so I mean the penitentiary was never like, it was always a place that, like, you know, you go on field trips to and stuff like that. And I've felt things like touching me and then turned around, there's nothing there, you know. I've seen things in the dark that I thought was a person, and then, you know, there was not a person there. And so lots of haunted stuff at the penitentiary as well.
Yeah, I bet. I haven't mustered up the courage to go to the penitentiary or Trans-Allegheny or anything like that. But, you know, it is, like you said, it's spooky season. So,
Yeah.
so maybe
I want to go to the Trans-Allegheny so bad, but I just haven't been able to yet.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I'm always worried something's going to attach itself to me and follow me back, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, this is what I love, you know, when you ask somebody, even Shyla, I guarantee you she has a story that she just hasn't shared yet of something weird that's happened in her life. Because it's like every person you talk to, even if they're like, no, I don't really believe in ghosts, but, you know, one day I walked through the house and, you know, the forks were floating or something, you know what I mean? It's everybody has some kind of story, you know, no matter how they view it. I haven't met anybody really that I don't think that hasn't had something go on. So
Definitely.
So Shyla, what do you want to share with us? I'm just playing. Are there any favorite stories you guys have? Anything that you're looking forward to doing? Any sneak peeks we can get for the month of October?
We're doing so this coming Friday we have the Bloner Has It Hotel coming out. I don't know if you've heard the story of that, but we're doing that. We have Mothman, which is going to be closer to Halloween. We have, what else are we doing?
The island, the Blenner Hazard Island. We're doing a separate one on that one.
Yeah.
And then the Philippine mummies. So that's all the ones that we're doing this year.
Okay, I haven't heard the one about the mummies. What is
Oh,
it?
you haven't heard of the mummies? That's a fun one. I'm doing that one, so I'll tell you all about that one.
Okay.
So basically, with the mummies, it's some guy in Philippines. He was just like a farmer, but he wanted to learn how to mummify people. It was like his hobby. Like he would mummify mice first and stuff like that. Mummify like a whole hand before he worked his way up to people. But he bought already dead corpses. He didn't murder anybody. But it's still kind of sad that it was from the lunatic asylum. I don't think it was the Trans-Allegheny one, but it was a different hospital.
Yeah.
I think one of them sadly was pregnant, and they did the baby too. So there was a baby at one point.
Oh.
Yeah. And he later, they've been on tour with P.T. Barnum too, and all this other stuff until they ended up making their way back to Philippines, and now you can pay $1 extra at the museum and see them, and the money goes to a scholarship fund.
Wow. See, I had never heard that. Mummy babies in Philippines.
Yeah, it's less of a cryptid story and more of just kind of like a bizarre story, but
yeah, that's okay. I like bizarre too. Okay. Oh, that caught me off guard. Okay. Well, what about this? Tell me the story, if you don't mind, just like a Cliff's Notes version, if you want to, of Blennerhassett. You know, I went there when I was a kid, for a field trip, and that's about all I know of it. I've seen the place, but what's going on there?
Yeah, Shyla knows all about that.
Yeah, so I'm from Parkersburg, so I grew up hearing the story of the Blennerhassett Hotel and stuff. But I think the biggest one is there's this man that has been spotted in a boiler hat. And so there's a suite. I forget what floor it's on. I think 4 maybe.
Yeah, I think it was the 4th floor.
Yeah, the 4th floor. So the hotel has been there's the old part, the original part, and then they added onto it. And the 4th floor, I'm pretty sure, is one of the only floors part of the original hotel. And there's one suite. It's the only 2-level suite in the hotel. And there's been multiple people that have stayed in that suite that have so the guy that was telling us these stories, he said that one night there was a man staying in the suite, and he ran down to the lobby fully naked because he spotted this man in the boiler hat in his room, and he was super freaked out. And then there's another girl that stayed in the suite, and she told him that she woke up in the middle of the night because she heard furniture moving around, and she thought someone was in the room, and then she saw this man in the boiler hat, and he was holding her down in the bed, and she couldn't move.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And there's been other stories of like different ghosts spotted, but that's the man in the boiler hat is like the biggest one that has the most sightings.
Right. So the hotel, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Shyla. The hotel is just like mostly like ghosts of perhaps previous guests or things like that. But the island is more about the Blennerhassett family because they had a house there. And do you want to tell them about the island, Shyla? Or
yeah. So with the island, the main ghost story is so like the tour guides have said that they've been giving tours of the mansion, and they'll have kids like go up to their parents and ask if they can play with the little girl in one of the rooms. And the parents are like, what are you talking about? There's no little girl there. But there's apparently been several children that have seen this little girl playing, and they don't know if it's the ghost of baby Margaret, which was Margaret Blennerhassett's daughter, or if there's a lot of Indian, like Native American history on the island, so it could be a Native American little girl too, they said.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's scary stuff. And when you start talking about little kids, ghosts of little kids, I'm like, that ain't no baby, that's a demon. You know, I always freak out about that stuff.
Yeah.
No
well,
way.
it would make more sense for it to be a Native American like child, because baby Margaret died as an infant. So I feel like if it was her ghost, how would she be playing with stuff as just a little baby newborn?
Right.
Yeah, when we were talking to the people who worked there, a lot of them were saying that they don't believe that there's any ghosts that are like the Blennerhassett family, but they do believe that there are like Native American spirits on the island.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're probably, the West Virginia, all of Appalachia is probably full of that. You know, I know Southern West Virginia was, and Eastern Kentucky, you know, before we stuck these boundary lines on everything, you know, this region down here was called the Dark and Bloody Ground. This land here was considered basically like cursed. There was a lot of hunting parties and stuff like that going through the area, but not a whole lot of settlements. Unless you go all the way back, there were some Shawnee tribes that were around through here, but it was you know, most of it goes back so ancient. It was like the Dino people and the mound builders and stuff like that. That's why there's so many mounds in Charleston. So there's a lot of old ancient Native American history and curses and stories and stuff like that. So yeah, I could see that being a Blennerhassett too, for sure.
Right.
Since we're talking about ghosts, let me ask you, what do you guys, either one of you, both of you, Shyla, I'd be interested in what you have to say too, especially being more skeptical. But Shayla, I want to hear yours too, because you know, you already believe. What do you guys think ghosts are? Do you think that you know, well, I'm not gonna feed it at all. I'm just gonna ask, what do you all think ghosts are? What are we dealing with?
Do you want to start first, Shyla?
Sure.
I just don't want to talk over you.
Well, my whole thought on this is, I don't know. I think a ghost would be so like I'm trying to think how to word this. I've always like thought of ghosts as like someone's spirit that hasn't like moved on yet. So like, I don't know, because that's always been my thought with it, is that, you know, someone dies, but if their spirit doesn't move on, then that's where their ghost comes. So I think that's also part of why some stories like I'm more skeptic about, because like the demons and stuff, I'm just like, no, like they're gone, they've moved on. But like the more like calmer ghosts, I guess, I'm like, okay, that might be believable because that could have actually happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll take. It all makes sense because nobody knows the answer. So you know, there's nobody can be wrong on this. I'm just asking, you know.
Right. For me, have you ever seen the movie Things Heard and Seen on Netflix?
I have not, but I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah. So basically, I might have to spoil a little bit of it in order to explain,
Go
because I think
for it.
that's kind of like what I feel about the situation. That movie has a lot more like within the story historical context than like anything else. I feel like ghosts are like almost like an imprint of history in some way. Um, do I think that spirits could be people who haven't moved on? Maybe, but I think more than likely it's like something happened in the past, and especially if it's something bad, it leaves like a negative energy, you know? And so like that energy is going to linger, you know? And you can feel it like that, like something bad has happened in this room even though you've never been here before or something, you know. I do think that like whenever we go on stories and whenever we like, you know, actually like go and shoot different stories, I feel like I can kind of tell if like, you know, a story is kind of like BS or if it's actually true when I actually go to the place.
Yeah.
And you can feel that energy, and if that energy is like, if there's like a palpable energy there, or if it's like there's not really anything here. But in the movie, like it's about like this kind of like dysfunctional family moves into this farmhouse, and they get haunted by a family that used to live there, where it was like a murder suicide that happened there. And so like it kind of like history kind of like repeats itself with like the basically the house is like cursed now, sort of. And that's a common like, you know, horror trope as well. But I definitely think like, yeah, the like it like leaves like an imprint on like an area, on like a place.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, like the lunatic asylum, you know, there'd be a lot of trauma there. Ghosts of Gettysburg, you know, those kind of places. That I can see that, you know. And talking about spirits that haven't moved on, Shyla, I'm with you on that too, you know. And who's to say it's just one or the other? It could be all of this stuff, right?
Right.
You know, I am a very spiritual person. You know, I talk about God and religion and stuff on my show all the time. So I don't know how you guys feel. I'm not trying to, you know, necessarily push one way or the other. But, you know, for me, I feel like it could definitely be both. And, you know, if you all guys, did you all watch the show? You guys are a little bit younger than I am, but you remember Ghost Hunters that used to come on? It was, you know, those two guys that were plumbers, and they would go out to the houses and check things out.
Yeah.
You know, they talked about two different types of haunts. You know, one would be a residual haunt, which is like what you're talking about, Shay, with, you know, the imprint. This is the ghosts are stuck doing the same thing over and over again because they're, you know, kind of like an imprint on time. And then they have the intelligent haunts, which would be these spirits that haven't found a way to move on, you know, to wherever their spirit is going to go to, you know. So they definitely incorporated both into it. It's just interesting when you can get something to communicate with you. You know, have you all done anything like that before? Like, have you tried to get an EVP, or have you picked up one on location or anything like that? Anything crazy go on?
Oh, I wish.
Yeah. Well, no, hold up. Be careful.
It's just mostly like a feeling that we get, I think.
Yeah.
But we could tell them about the Silver Run Tunnel when we went there.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, like a lot of these stories, like whenever we go to find like the place that like it took place or whatever, of course it's going to be like in the middle of nowhere, sort of like, so of course we're going to get lost.
Right.
We always get lost every single time. But so the ghost of the Silver Run Tunnel, though, I believe that tunnel is 100% haunted. We drove up there, we got lost, we had to go into like the town hall and like ask, there was like one lady in there, and we were like, we're looking for this tunnel that has a ghost in it or whatever, and she was like, I know exactly what you're talking about, go out this and then go here and then you're there. And then so we did, and we found it. And it's just like, it's so like, it's kind of long, you know, it's a long tunnel. and it's like permanently like foggy and damp in there. So like when you go in there, like even when you had your flashlight on, you can't like see very well. Like and like I don't know, like we tried to like walk through it and we got too scared.
Both of you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were out there with our phone flashlight.
Well, look who's a believer now. So, how is this tunnel supposed to be haunted? Was there a horrific crash? Was it something in the building of the tunnel? Or-
Yeah, we have this story up on our website right now if people want to look at it.
Yeah.
It's a so basically what happened was supposedly a bride and a groom were riding a train. It used to be a train tunnel on the train tracks. Now it's just like, you know, a regular trail. The story goes that like, you know, it was a bride and a groom. The bride fell off or was pushed from the train, and now she haunts that tunnel. And you know, the saying goes that back in the day, if the train conductor like, you know, just takes his time going through the tunnel, then they haven't seen the ghost yet. But if they barrel through, then you know that they've seen the ghost before. But like the ghost, sorry, still a little bit sick.
Okay.
The ghost, like they would think that they hit somebody because they would see it on the tracks. Shyla, do you want to explain? I'm sorry, I'm coughing too much.
You're okay. Yeah, so they would see the people driving the trains would see this woman in this white dress on the tracks, and they would like stop the train because they thought someone was there and there wasn't anyone like standing there. Yeah.
See, that's
And
so
people, there were stories of like trains would go through and people outside like the tunnel would see just this woman in a white dress like on the train.
On the train.
They're
Yeah,
like, she's like riding the cow catcher, and all the
Yeah.
people in the town were like, "There's somebody on your cow catcher! Like, stop!" And
Oh
he's like,
my
"What is
God.
wrong with you people?"
Yeah.
It's a ghost.
That's so creepy. Yeah. I think I've read a story. I got a lot of West Virginia haunted stories, you know, books. I might have read something similar to that before. So that's interesting. And you guys are doing that story, or you've already done that story?
We did it last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, it's my dream though to walk through the whole tunnel.
Hey,
Brave enough.
well, look, you said that, you know, you wish something would happen. You wish you get an EVP or something. Let me tell you, and this is, you know, this goes on to, like I said, I'm very much a Christian person, you know, a spiritual person. I talk about a lot of weird stuff, but I go get prayed. You know, I get prayed up before I do a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I've had several stories, you know, episodes that I've done that have EVPs come through that I never hear until a listener sends me an email, says, "Hey, go to this episode, you know, this number marker, play this back." And it never happens when I'm talking about alien abductions. It never happens when I'm talking about Bigfoot. It's only when I talk about really dark paranormal stuff.
Huh.
And I've had speakers go out. I had like a brand new laptop, you know, a nice HP laptop, had it for about a week. Bring on a guest that wants to talk about, you know, being a paranormal investigator and all this stuff. My speakers go completely out, never come back. I've had EVPs that I thought initially was just like an echo in the line, but it was something that was like almost repeating what I was saying. But, you know, my voice is here and it's like an octave below me and like whispering. It's just I'm getting myself chill bumps again. It's the creepiest stuff ever. And then you start seeing black shadows in the house. I don't know if it's something about electronics that something travels. I don't know how weird you guys get about this stuff, but I've had a lot of activity in this house to the point where I had to go through and I saged the home, I did some prayers and, just had to actually cleanse the house out because things get real weird and it gets real serious. So yeah, you might want to hear it, but make sure you don't bring anything home with you that you're not ready to, to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. I know that they were saying about the Blennerhassett Island that there's like people come every year to do like an EVP thing. I would really like to go over with them and do that and kind of like, document it on film if they would let me. So that might be something that we do next year if they let us do that.
Hey, go for it. Just be ready for it, because
you only live once.
Yeah. Do you? Is that?
Oh, hopefully. That should be the afterlife.
That's right. That's right. You might be stuck doing journalism for eternity. You never know what's going to happen out there. Well, you guys said that you're doing Mothman. Is that right? You're going to do a Mothman piece?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite things on the planet to talk about. And I'd never get to talk about it on this show hardly. Can you give me a little insight about what you have planned?
Well, we went to we're going to tell the general story, but then we went to the to Point Pleasant. Mm-hmm. We did see the bunkers, I guess, the igloos. They call them the igloos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a trip because we got lost doing that. Because I didn't realize that when they said TNT area, they meant like it was like miles and miles of woods.
Yeah.
And these like little igloos were just around, like I had no idea what I was looking for. But we found it. So we did a little thing there, and then also when it comes to these larger monsters, I also like to add in a little thing about how like it's definitely affected the lives of the people that live there, and it's definitely attracted a lot of tourism and a lot of interest outside of West Virginia. So I like to sprinkle in that little stuff within the story.
Absolutely.
And same with Flatwoods, but I feel like Mothman lends itself a little bit better to that because like going to see those like igloos and stuff was really cool, like that's like Flatwoods, there's not really much to like go and see, like you can't go on the farm, it's private property, and I understand that. I don't want to like disrespect the family or anything there,
right?
But like when you can actually go and see all the different things, it's really neat.
Yeah, it is. Have you guys went to the Mothman Festival ever?
I haven't had the chance to.
No. I know they've canceled it the last couple of years due to COVID, the thing that will never go away. But
yeah.
But yeah, I've went to the Mothman Festival probably 3 or 4 or 5 times. Love it. It is something you have to witness. When you get 5,000 to 10,000 people shoved into Point Pleasant, you got some of the strangest people you've ever seen in your life showing up there. But you gotta, I don't know, you gotta see it. It's so much fun. And I don't know how deep you guys have went into the whole rabbit hole of Mothman, but if you read the book Mothman Prophecies versus the movie, Mothman, that whole entity, that creature or whatever you want to call it, has a lesser role overall than the UFO flap that went on there. There was crazy UFO sightings all over Point Pleasant leading up to that, and for like 6 months beyond. That rocked the whole town. Like everybody was seeing these UFOs. So do you guys have any kind of beliefs on UFO activity or anything like that? Do you believe in UFOs?
Do you know what year that was that they saw all the UFOs? Like what decade around even?
I want to say 65, 66, 67, maybe those 3 years.
Okay. So it was still around the time that the Flatwoods Monster was seen too then, right?
Yeah.
Was that around the same?
I think Flatwoods was around 52.
Oh, okay.
52, and it was about 10, 15 years later is the Mothman stories. But
I didn't do the math in my head or anything.
It's all right. There's UFO and alien stories everywhere you go in West Virginia, and I don't know, it's
right
because we have less light pollution. We got a good view of the stars pretty much anywhere you live around here. But yeah, there's tons of UFO stories. We've always had stuff like that going on.
Absolutely. I think also Gray Barker did a pretty good job at publicizing all the stuff that happens in West Virginia.
Yes, he did.
That everybody knows about it. I've done a couple of stories at the Gray Barker Archives in Clarksburg, so I'm a little familiar with him. So, but I think that stuff is always fun, and sometimes true, sometimes not, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
But definitely think that there's definitely something out there that we don't know.
Yeah, I do too. Especially here lately, the last couple of years, there's all this UFO, UAP disclosure going on. What do you guys think? What do you all think? Do you think aliens are out there? Do you have a theory of what they are or what they want and all that?
Shyla, do you want to go first on this one, or?
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I think there's definitely something out there. There's no way that we're the only planet with creatures on it, you know? But I don't really have a theory of what they could be or what they want. I feel like there's just something out there that we don't know of.
Yeah. I'll take that.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, how could we be the only thing in the whole universe, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything in the sky that you couldn't explain?
No, I have not.
We've
gotten a lot of like videos and stuff sent to the station of like lights in the sky and like stuff flashing, and people were like, what is this? And we're always like, we don't know. But I personally haven't seen anything, no.
Well, I think you should send those witnesses over to me and let me talk to them about their experiences. What about you, Shay? Have you seen any UFOs?
I've never seen any UFOs, but I believe people who say that they have, I also believe some of the alien abduction stuff and stuff like that. Sure. I don't know if we want to go deep into conspiracy.
Do it.
Maybe some of the alien sightings could have been, they didn't know that they were test subjects or something, with all the weird MK Ultra and all the other conspiracies that the scientists have done, and then just the loss of memory and stuff like that makes sense, with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I believe in aliens. I don't think that they're in our solar system, but I think that everybody pretty much believes that at this point, that they're more interstellar than that.
Yeah.
I guess that's the word that you would say. And then I don't know, have you I'm sure that you've listened to the Joe Rogan podcast with when he brought on Bob Lazar.
Oh yeah,
that was some pretty wild stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that made me a believer more than anything else. That definitely something weird's going on there, Yeah.
I believe Bob Lazar. I believe more recently, I think it was the 2017 incident with the Tic Tac UFO, the Nimitz, the Go Fast, the Gimbal, all of those videos. and that he also on Joe Rogan was Commander Fravor. He was one of the pilots that tried to chase down one of these UFOs, and he told that story. That was pretty crazy. That was definitely pretty crazy.
Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, now you got the Pentagon at least admitting that, you know, something is here. They just don't know who they are or what they want. You know, that's my cat just showed up over here meowing at me. Yeah, that's at least some kind of disclosure. You know, at least we're getting a little bit closer to the truth. They've known for 75 years, but we're starting to chip away some answers. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's getting a little bit late. I appreciate you guys for doing this with me. Is there anything that you want to go over that we haven't touched on yet?
Nope. I mean, if we just want to plug the thing one last time, you know, or every Friday we're doing a new story. This next one's going to be on the Blenner Hazard Hotel, and you can also look at all the other stuff that we done last year, and our first one of this year is on our website, WBOY.com, and we have a nice banner up there that says Paranormal West Virginia. You can click on that. It'll take you right there, and you can read all the crazy stuff that we've found, or the crazy folklore that we found in West Virginia. So
awesome. And can people reach out to you with their own stories?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Yep. Email me or Shyla. Should I say our emails again?
Yeah, please.
So mine is sklein@wboy.com, and Shyla's is sparsons, PARSONS, @wboy.com.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you'll have so many people messaging you guys can do this year round, because
that's the dream.
I think Paranormal West Virginia is awesome. I love it. You guys do a great job on your articles.
Thanks.
I love that last video of the Ogua, not the Ogua. Like I thought I nailed that thing, but I was way off. But yeah, you all keep up the good work. Stay safe out there. Don't bring home anything with you that is uninvited. So be careful, okay?
All right.
Well, thank you all again. I appreciate you. And I will send you a link to this in just a couple weeks when it airs, okay?
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having us.